Good afternoon. Hello. It is good. Excuse me. It is good to be back. Moneyline MMA. It's been almost, I want to say, 2 full months since we've been able to come live here on the channel. But we're making our comeback here for 2026. First week in February here. Had some trials and tribulations to get through in January, but here we are, persevering as always. And unfortunately, we have missed two of the pay-per-view cards that have already happened here in 2026. UFC on Paramount. Gotta say, it's been pretty interesting. Upside, they started the cards a little earlier, so they're not you're not up until potentially past 1 a.m. on the East Coast. Downside, they're playing ads throughout the whole card now, unless you use which pro tip I heard, if you use the multi-view in Paramount Plus, there are no ads. You just get like panoramic views of the stadium, which is cool. So tip there. But either way, UFC and Paramount been pretty successful from what I hear in general, and there's been some great fights so far. Of course, we've seen as recently as, well, we've got two belts on the line that we've seen so far this year. Of course, Volkanovski versus Lopez was the most recent one. Volkanovski defending his belt. Felt like the fight didn't even need to happen after watching it, because Volkanovski kind of really just handled Diego Lopez. I'm not even sure Lopez won a round. I guess on a couple judges' scorecards he did, but in my eyes, I wouldn't have opposed at all 50-45 Volk. In any case, before that, we saw Gaethje beat up Paddy Pimblett for a couple of rounds there and get himself the lightweight belt. So excited for what we've seen so far in 2026, and we've got a lot more to come, but a couple of weeks before our next pay-per-view event. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I can double check on the schedule, but this card occurs, of course, this Saturday the 7th. This is the first card of 2026 on the Apex, now called the Meta Apex. Oh my gosh, Facebook getting their money in to the UFC pool. I hate that, but at the same time, I can't blame them for taking the paycheck. But that said, first card in that new named same arena that they've been using. But then we have a week off. There's nothing on the 14th. That's the weekend of Valentine's Day. So enjoy your time out with your significant others, because there will be no fights to distract yourself with. But the week after, of course, we'll be back as Sean Strickland fights Fluffy. That'll be an interesting fight in Houston. But that said, this Saturday we've got main card headlined by Mario Bautista in Vinicius Oliveira bantamweight fight with some title implications in theory. As always, for anyone new, Jose and I make 5 picks on the current scheduled 12 or 13 fights. What is it? 13 currently scheduled fights for UFC Meta Apex on February 7th. We make 5. We weigh them in order of confidence, with 5 weight being the most confident, 1 weight being the least confident. We make these picks separately of each other and go right through them just before we hit live, just so we know what order we're going to go in, because we always start with our locks of the week first. That said, for my 5 weight lock of the week, I'm going to start with the feature fight. I was trying to say fight and bout at the same time. The feature fight, Jailton Almeida. This is a rare occurrence where you're going to see me take heavyweights for my 5 weight. So I'm going to take a leap of faith here on Jailton Almeida to beat Rizvan Kuniev. I'm happy with the line here. Jailton Almeida minus 160, Rizvan Kuniev plus 124. Almeida's a dog. Almeida's a complete dog. He lost to Volkov as a complete striker's delight, really, kind of match. Volkov is pretty good, but Almeida, I mean, to all Volkov's credit, Almeida landed 7 of his 9 takedown attempts and could not finish Volkov. Over 10 minutes of control time did not get Almeida the win, which is interesting. But it's a damage game, and it's also depending on where the fight takes place. We've seen judges score things differently, whether they're in Abu Dhabi, Australia, US. We saw some weird decisions this past Saturday. So, I don't know. Point being, I don't think this is going to get to that point, though. I don't think the judges are going to matter on Saturday in this feature fight. Jailton Almeida is going to have his way with Rizvan Kuniev. He's going to use his submission prowess to get a submission win. Kuniev does have some power, but he even most recently lost to Curtis Blades, who is like a light version of Jailton Almeida, in my opinion, especially as he gets older. So I just see that Rizvan Kuniev already has the blueprint out there on how to beat him. I mean, I guess technically so does Almeida, but I don't think Kuniev can execute that. So it'll be up to him to prove me wrong. But I'm going to go with Almeida here, and I think he's going to finish Kuniev on Saturday night. What do you think, Jose?
Yeah, Nick, I agree with you with a lot what you had to say. I also have Jalen Almeida. He's my four weight. Like you said, I think he's overall the better fighter in this one, and he's also got more experience. And not only that, like I like the reach advantage he has, and even though he is a strong grappler, I just think that he may end up getting the better end of the exchange on the feet here. Rizvan Kuniev, he has phenomenal striking as well. But I think ultimately Jalen Almeida is going to just beat him up and just ground and pound him. And even on the feet, I think Jalen Almeida will look a bit better. I think he's just going to hit a couple, do a couple hits. Obviously, not a high volume puncher, Jalen Almeida, but he'll probably just throw a few just to help set up a takedown. Ultimately, that's the way I think this fight will go. Yeah, I just feel really good. I just think overall he's just a better fighter. I think John Almeida is better than, the couple of losses he's had is just some of the best for sure. Volkov was on a tear for a bit too, and just the height and reach advantage was different. Curtis Blades as well. So that being said, this one, not much for me to say other than just I heavily agree with a lot you said. I think John Almeida takes the win. I think he's going to just dominate overall with his grappling and wrestling in general, and either end it or unanimous decision victory for him. So that being said, yeah, I got John Almeida. He is my four weight.
We'll agree pretty heavily then. 9 total confidence points there on Jailton Almeida. And this is really his opportunity to stand out. If he's going to be any better than average in this division, he's going to need to come and take this win and take it strong. Because, like you mentioned, he's now lost to Curtis Blades himself, Volkov most recently. So he's taken a couple of losses. Taking another loss here and making it 3-3 in his last 6 is not going to look well. It was at one point where he seemed to be enough of a prospect to be like a future champion. I'm questioning if he's even a top 10 guy at this point. And if he is, he's going to have to finish Kuniev, and it sounds like we both think he will. Just to reiterate before we move on, that's minus 160 odds on our pick, J. Alton Almeida. From there, let's hear what Jose's 5-weight is.
So for my five weight, this is actually going to be the opener of the main card, the light heavyweight bout between Dustin Jacoby and Julius Walker. Right now, I don't have their odds, but I'm going with Dustin Jacoby on this one. Reason being is he's just has a lot more experience than Julius Walker. Dustin Jacoby's been in the UFC longer. He's a finisher. He's got 14 wins by knockout, and 13 of those come in the first round. So you know what you're going to expect from him. And Julius Walker, on the other hand, though he is a good striker, he is by far also a better grappler. He's most likely going to try to look for a takedown in this one. And he doesn't have as much experience in the UFC compared to Dustin Jacoby. And he did end up losing a fight to split decision. He ended up losing by split decision to Alonzo Menningfield, and then he comes back and wins unanimous decision most recently. But that was like about a year ago. He hasn't fought yet, pretty much since like half a year, over like under a year. I mean, and he hasn't fought since August. And I think this one, Justin Jacoby, just an extremely active fighter. He hasn't fought himself actually since May, but historically, he's been very active. I'm actually interested in who's the favorite in this one. But that being said, regardless, I got Dustin Jacoby on this one. I'm taking his experience, his high level striking. He lands 5.37 significant strikes per minute. Julius Walker lands 4.33, and both absorb about a similar amount of damage. Dustin Jacoby absorbs about 4.02 significant strikes per minute, while Julius Walker absorbs 3.53. So essentially, like on the feet, both dudes are definitely going to be throwing down and eating some. It's going to be, and I think Julius Walker will probably have the slight edge when it comes to the wrestling department. So if Julius Walker wins, I do think it's going to be kind of like the John Almeida fight I was talking about earlier, like just in that method, like where his grappling is going to pretty much be his key to victory. But I think Dustin Jacoby is just overall much better. He even lacks the height and has a 2-inch disadvantage over compared to Julius Walker, but 21-9. I'm taking that heavy experience any day. Phenomenal kickboxer. So that being said, I got Justin Jacoby. I just think he's going to take the cake on this one. He's my 5 weight. Nick, do you have any thoughts on this fight?
I don't have an official weight on this pick, or this fight, excuse me, but I would lean Dustin. I agree with you fully on the experience there. 31 professional MMA fights versus 8 is a crazy difference. And I mean, wow, there was like 11 years of difference in between these guys' age. Jacoby 37. Um, so I stayed away with this one for basically those reasons. Julius Walker's just so much younger, and he's theoretically got a lot of pop in his punches. But I totally agree the experience is what makes me respect Jacoby more. And should I have a pick on this fight, I would say Jacoby. He's coming off 2 straight KO finish wins. So it's not like he's drudging his opponents through these boring decisions. 2 straight KO wins, I like that a lot. He's got a lot of power behind his hands. And yeah, these guys have equal losses to Alonzo Menifield. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I guess Menifield's better than both of them, but I do think Justin Jacoby is the winner here if I had to pick.
And Nick, do you happen to have the odds for this fight by any chance?
Oh yeah, good call. Jacoby is the public wholeheartedly agrees. Jacoby's minus 200, Walker's plus 154.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that definitely makes me, I guess, feel better because I genuinely had no clue who the favorite was right now going into this. So that makes me feel better about my 5 pick.
Sounds good. So with that, let's go to my 4-weight, and that's going to take us into the main event of the evening. Mario Bautista, Vinicius Oliveira, bantamweights. Both of these guys really looking great. I would say, Bautista had a huge win streak there of like 8 or 9 fights in a row and ran into Umar. It's a buzzsaw. I mean, Umar is very obviously a title contender, and it's him that should get his rematch against Merab next, if you ask me. But it's one of those things like Merab's just running laps around at everybody, and Merab's getting to the point where he's going to, he's better than everybody, but his age is going to catch up with him more than anything, because I think he's 37 now. But in any case, Mario Bautista is a complete buzzsaw. He beats everybody except, most recently, Umar. Vinicius Oliveira, though, 5 in a row. He comes in off the Contender Series, finish fights, beats Ricky Simon, beats Saeed, and beats Kyler Phillips. And those are unanimous, clear wins. And Saeed is no Islam Makhachev, He comes from that area, but he isn't obviously that greatness level. But Oliveira is just basically starching these guys. And Bautista, as good as he is, he's starching his opponents too, but it's like Patchy Mix, okay. Patchy Mix, I think, already got released by the UFC. All right, so maybe Patchy Mix isn't, okay. Jose Aldo, well, he's probably 42 years old. Okay, Ricky Simon. Well, Ricky Simon's good, but he's basically the definition of 50-50 in a fighter. So it's okay, Mario Bautista's winning these fights, but are these guys really? And I mean, Oliveira's not beating anybody that's amazing, but Kyler Phillips doubling up his strikes landed. I mean, dang, Saeed, unanimous, landing more takedowns, landing more strikes, getting fight of the night. So I've just seen more in Vinicius. I've seen more of the dog element there. And I just think he can dig deeper than Oliveira if it's needed. And he's going to be the guy that has a higher chance to finish the fight, in my opinion, too. Even though I'd lean in general that it probably goes to decision. I think if one guy was to land a finish, I think it would be Oliveira for sure. He's got 16 KOs, for God's sakes. So, that said, I think of all those things. I pick Oliveira, and then I go and I look at the odds. And Oliveira's at plus 158. I'm like, what? We've got to... This is easy. This is the best money I've had in a long time in an underdog. Mario Bautista's a dog, but minus 205 for what? Give me Vinicius Oliveira all day there. I like it. What do you think, Jose?
Yeah, Nick, that's crazy that Vinicius Oliveira is the betting underdog in this one because I totally agree with you on this one. He is my 3-weight. Overall, I like more what I've seen out of him. He does have that dog in him, and he's won pretty impressively and not in any boring fashion. He halted. He put a stop to the hype train in Bernardo Sopage back in 2024, getting that finish, that KO in the third round. But leading up to it, he was just brutalizing him. And then he goes on to win unanimously against veteran Ricky Simone, and he went toe-to-toe with Said Nurmagomedov, like you mentioned. So, and Said being more of like a kickboxer, and then Kyler Phillips as well. Like, I like pretty much the ringer that Oliveira's been going through, and not to like diss anything on Mario Bautista, but yeah, like the way he won that Jose Aldo fight was not really impressive. He was just boring, holding him against the cage. That was, and he won split decision still, which says a lot about that. And then the patchy mix, like you mentioned, he's just out, and then of course he loses to Umar Nurmagomedov, and that, like, yeah, I think Vinicius Oliveira is going to ultimately just be the better fighter in this one. I don't see Mario Bautista. I think that what he did to Jose Aldo was just a very, like, we won't really see much again, because when you know a fighter, that's what they're going to be doing. Like, I guarantee you, Vinicius Oliveira is like, yeah, like, no way am I going to allow anyone to just pin me against the cage and make it a boring fight all 3 rounds. Well, in this case, being a 5-round fight. So all 5 rounds. And even though Mario Bautista, he has a 2-inch reach, he has a 1.5 reach advantage over Vinicius Oliveira, I still think Vinicius Oliveira is going to get the better end of the exchanges on the feet, at least. Both land high volume of punches per minute. Mario Bautista lands 5.58 significant strikes, while Vinicius Oliveira lands 5.28. But Mario definitely absorbs more. He absorbs 4.19 significant strikes per minute, while Vinicius, he absorbs 2.89. So I think on the feet, Vinicius Oliveira is going to be the better striker, just slightly. But even then, same with the grappling too. I think they both are pretty close to the grappling department as well. Both will be definitely looking for takedowns, and it's ultimately who's going to be the stronger guy that can come out on top. And I think it's going to also be Vinicius Oliveira on this one. So the fact that he's an underdog, I'm all over that all day. So that being said, yeah, I heavily agree with you on this one. I have Vinicius Oliveira as my 3-weight.
Well, okay. So easily the underdog lock of the week there, and 7 total confidence points on a guy who you can make plus money on betting. That's crazy. We love Oliveira here. But with that, let's, I think, go down to Jose's 2-weight.
So for my 2-weight, this is in the middle of the card. This is actually the co-main event, the flyweight bout between Amir Albazi and Kyoji Horiguchi. And right now, again, I don't have the odds for these ones, but for this one, I'm going with Kyoji on this one. I for some reason, I feel like he may be the underdog. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, Nick, but I feel like he may be the underdog, but I'm going to go heavy with him. He's got a lot more experience. He's 35-5, and out of his 35 wins, he's got 15 by knockout and 6 by submission. So he is a very well-rounded fighter. And I think this will be one where I don't think he's going to knock out Amir Albazi. Amir Albazi is just really a really good fighter, and he comes from a really great camp, and he's coming off that loss most recently to Brandon Moreno, the former champ, obviously. So, but he's gone on and beat Kai Kara-France, who is currently not really fighting right now, and he's got a win over Alessandro Costa, which is all right, and not Davison Figueiredo, but Francisco Figueiredo. So not the same as fighting Figgy. I just think overall, yeah, his record. I mean, his resume is not as impressive. He's a good fighter. I just don't think his resume is as impressive. And to be honest, Kyoji's is not nowhere near as impressive either. But I do like that he does have the win actually over Tagir Lebekov, which I like that one a lot. But other than that, just heavy experience. Just that's ultimately what I like that I'm seeing right now out of Kyoji. So and he has only a 1-inch reach advantage, even though he's slightly shorter. But he throws a high volume of punches. And Amir Albazi too, like, here's the thing. He lands 2.72 significant strikes per minute, and he absorbs 3.71. I think someone with as much experience as Kyoji Horiguchi is going to be all over that, especially because he lands 3.64 significant strikes per minute and absorbs 2.26. On the feet, Kyoji is by far the better striker. And when it comes to the grappling, I think both are about the same. I think both are literally around the same when it comes to grappling. So I think Kyoji is actually going to ultimately just win this, I think, by unanimous decision. So I think he's just going to completely dominate out of the feet. So that being said, yeah, he's my two-way. I don't think he's been in the UFC as long as Amir Abazi, though. So I just think Amir Abazi, he's just got slightly, I like the resume that he has more for, in terms of, even though he's got some losses, just like the level of competition he's gone against more recently. He doesn't have as much of experience as Kyoji, but his most recent competition, I will say, has been tougher, and he definitely comes from a great camp. TriStar with his brother being the head coach. That being said, yeah, I got Kyoji Hiriguchi. He is my two-weight, low confidence, because Amir Abazi is still, he'll probably still find he's just pretty good in his own right. So that being said, Kyoji Hiriguchi is my two-weight. Nick, what are your thoughts on this one?
I have a three-weight on Horiguchi, actually, so we're going to agree yet again. It's common occurrence here. Not as many crossfires as we've had in past shows, but definitely like Horiguchi. You kind of named basically all the reasons why, and Horiguchi in the public's eye is the way to go. Minus 340, Albazi plus 250. What a fall from grace for Albazi there after basically being looked at as a high-end prospect, losing to Brandon Moreno, and dang, he's a huge underdog against Horiguchi, who's good in his own right, but I'm just kind of surprised, I guess. Horiguchi's not like a young fighter by any means, so in any case, I agree with it though. Horiguchi's just got more tools in the tool belt, and I think he's the better fighter overall, so I'm happy to get that 5 total competence points, and I think he's a safe enough pick, even though I'd stay away from minus 340. That's a bit steep. So that said, let's go down to my two weight. My two weight is keeping us in the main card. I think all of our picks today are on the main card somewhere or another. I'm going to be looking at the middleweight bout between Ola Jacek and Marc-Andre Barriault. Mikhail Olajechuk's the kind of guy who's up and down, 50-50, especially as of late. 3-3 in his last 6. Lost 3 in a row, won his last 2 in a row, both by finish. But Cedric Dumas, like, come on, that dude is one of the worst fighters in the UFC. Gerald Meerschaert is one of the worst boxers in the UFC. And Marc-Andre Barriault is one of the better boxers in the middleweight division. He's not the kind of guy who's going to avoid significant strikes. I mean, he just got kind of beat up by Shara. He's lost via finish to Dustin Stoltzfus and Joe Pyfer. I get it. But even against like Chris Curtis, for example, I thought he almost did enough to win that fight. Got the split decision loss. When it's kind of like striker versus striker, Marc-Andre's going to be ready for it. And that's shown to be wrong against maybe higher level guys like Shara for sure. He was not matched up well to Shara. And Joe Pyfer too. He didn't even land a strike on Joe Pyfer. Stoltzfus kind of starched him. But Ola Jacek, to me, I don't know. I just don't see the striking ability there. You know, this guy also lost to Shara, lost to Kevin Holland, Michel Pereira, and I just don't like who he has beat. Like, Chidi Niokwani is probably his best career win. I don't know. Marc-Andre Barriault is just a little better than that to me, and he's consistent. He might not be the best fighter in middleweight. He might not even be top 15, but he shows up every time, and he's tough. He's never going to give up, and I like that about him. Not that Ola Jacek would, but I just see a little bit more toughness there. So for those reasons, I'm giving Ola Jacek a 2-weight. It's one of those things. Well, actually, sorry, I said Ola Jacek, but I meant Marc-Andre Barriault. Make sure that's marked, Jose. I'm not picking Ola Jacek here. I'm taking Marc-Andre Barriault for the reasons I just explained. Ola Jacek just hasn't done enough lately, and what he has done is insignificant against insufficient opponents. So what do you think on this one?
Yeah, so obviously this being my one way, I am going with Mikhail Olajechek. And the reason why I'm going with him, even though, yeah, I do think Marc-Andre Barriault has gone against some tough competition, and he's just come out short. You know, Chris Curtis, Joe Pyfer, and Shafkat. Shara Magomedov. And so, yeah, like I think those were almost expected to lose. And some of them, I think, Pfeiffer's got just power behind his hands, and he's come back and he lost to Stoltzfus as well. So, yeah, just that one win, that's the only thing. Like, Ola Jacek, yeah, Gerald Mearster. Here's the thing, like, yeah, Gerald Mearster is not a good boxer, and Ola Jacek, he's got phenomenal kickboxing. So, like, but Gerald Mearster, he's gone against a lot of dudes that are strikers only. So the fact that he was able to survive and not get submitted by Gerald Mearster, I respect that. Cedric Dumas, yeah, that's like literally like a give me. And then the other ones, yeah, he lost 3 in a row. So, but then being TD Neil Kawani, that is I like that impressive win too. So that is the most impressive win. Yeah, he does have that's been a minute now, but I just think all Jacek offers a little more. He has more weapons in his tool set, I guess to say. Marc-Andre Barrios, as you mentioned, is mostly a boxer. McCall Jacek, he throws his kicks a lot more into the mix. He's a better, more well-rounded stand-up guy with the kickboxing. And Marc-Andre Barrios, like he lands 5 point. He lands a high volume of strikes. He lands 5.7, but he also absorbs about the same. He absorbs 5.63. So he's always almost receiving back what he gets, what he throws out. And McCall Jacek, he lands 5.34 and absorbs 4.41 significant strikes per minute. So I think on the feet, both are definitely going to be just landing a lot, throwing a lot. And Marc-Andre Barrios may throw some of the harder punches, so he could knock out McCall Jacek. But McCall Jacek, the one thing I think that he does better than Marc-Andre Barrios, though, is also going to be the wrestling and grappling department, even though he's mostly, again, like a jiu-jitsu guy. A striker. I do think that he's probably going to fare well with the grappling exchanges as well. If need be, if Marc-Andre Barrios stuns him, I think he's going to at least close the distance and get a hold of Marc-Andre Barrios. Whether he holds him and brings him down, that I'm not sure. He could possibly do just like at least just hold him and put him against the cage and just not take damage essentially and just recover. So that's the way I think McCall and Jacek will win this. Is I think mostly still going to be on the feet and close the distance and to recover if he needs to against Marc-Andre Barrios. So again, he is my one weight, so it's very low confidence because I do think Marc-Andre Barrios can make it lights out any moment. They physically, they both are about the same height. Neither has a reach advantage. Both have a 74-inch reach vertical, and both just have a lot of experience. McCall Jacek being 21-9, and Marc-Andre Barrios 17-10. Really, it's just two dudes with a lot of experience that are good at what they do. And ultimately, I had to pick one, so I wanted to call it Jacek just because I think he can mix in kicks and the grappling a little bit better than Marc-Andre Barrios. So that's what I'm with McCall and Jacek. He is my one weight.
So that's our first disagreement then. I actually think I told you too before the show that I was taking on Jacek. Going with Marc-Andre. Not obviously extremely confident there. Part of the reason I'm able to switch up there is just having kind of reinvestigated some of this. Made me get a hunch, I guess, for the lack of a better term. But the last thing I'll cover on this fight is the odds. We've got Marc-Andre Barrios at plus 255. Might call Ola Jacek minus 350. So odds are definitely heavily in Jose's favor there. So we shall see who ends up being correct. I think I just have one more fight to go through. Jose's gotten his 5 weights in, so my 1 weight in which Jose can give any opinion he'd like is going to be on Farid Basharat to stay undefeated. Versus Gene Matsumoto. I am ready to fade Farid Basharat when I think it's the right time. I don't think that time is quite here against Matsumoto, and I think Matsumoto's pretty decent, but Farid is just I'm trying not to bite too deep into the bait because obviously him and his brother they both were looked at as pretty big prospects, and then Javid ended up losing a couple of fights in a row, and now it's like, is Javid even that good? So I don't want to get too like in love with Farid just because he's undefeated and he's a prospect, this or that. Maybe he is. Maybe he isn't better than his brother, but I still do think he'll beat Jun Matsumoto here. Matsumoto's never been finished, so this is going to be a tough fight. But his last 2 fights ended in split decision. I think for sure Basharat's going to be looking for a finish. Much more within the realm of possibility there than Matsumoto. Farid Basharat has finished his last 3 fights, though, with a decision, so by no means would it be a surprise if this went to the judges. And I like where Basharat's been lately. Chris Gutierrez, he kind of looked really good. I think he landed a couple takedowns. Clearly won in the striking department. Had some control time. Kind of did what you wanted to see against a guy like that. And Gene Matsumoto, okay, Miles Johns is all right. Miles Johns is all right, but that dude's on a 3-fight lose streak. So give me Farid Basharat. Like I said, I'm ready to fade him, just not quite yet. Any thoughts, Jose?
I like the Farad Basharat pick a lot. He's just coming off. He's on a 3-fight win streak right now, and I do like that win over Chris Gutierrez. I think the thing that he does very well is he just mixes it up. I think Basharat's going to be the better grappler in this one for sure. I think he's going to just be far better. I think also when it comes to the striking, Gene Matsumoto, Gene Matsumoto, what he throws and lands is from what I'm seeing is pretty much the same. If you're observing 5.43 significant strikes per minute, that's a lot of strikes you're observing per minute versus Basharat's 2.47. And granted, Gene Matsumoto, he has not been in the UFC for as long. Both of these guys haven't really been in the UFC for too long. So I think like that obviously that plays a key role in that, but I just think overall Farad is going to be the more well-rounded fighter and just be a lot better. So I have no pick on this one, but I do agree with Farad Basharat.
Sounds good. And for the record, he is minus 290, Matsumoto plus 215. So Basharat is a pretty heavy favorite here, and I think for a good reason. We'll see what ends up happening there. But just a quick recap, our lock of the week is for sure going to be the underdog, Vinicius Oliveira. And also we both like Jailton Almeida pretty heavily. That's the overall lock of the week at minus 160. You combine those two and you can get a plus 319 two-leg parlay. Just take a look at that and potentially put some money down. Write us. Let us know in the comments who you agree or disagree with. And as I stated earlier, we will be off again next week as there are no fights on the 14th. But of course, that'll be on the 16th then again. We will be live and that'll be covering... that'll be another... that's Strickland. Who is it? Strickland versus... Let me double check that one. Hernandez. Yep, we're going to get Anthony Hernandez versus Strickland there. Little fluffy action with Spivak and Delija. Some heavyweight action in the co-main. So it's actually a pretty decent card just because it's happening in Houston. And it's wild that it's happening in Houston. We're not seeing Derek Lewis because we just saw him fight already this year. Either way, thanks for listening. Have a good week, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.